I guess we better get into YouTube's bizarre censorship rules when it comes to the US election. And it's not just on the election results, it's actually on COVID too, which we fell afoul of. I didn't realise that we tripped the wire here. But there we go. I mean, we got a slap and the video removed, no warning. That is now a permanent warning. So we're going to have to be more careful in future. But yeah, so YouTube yesterday published this blog. It wasn't something that they could have. They can send you emails. They can send every content creator emails. They can have notifications pop up in the YouTube backend, so every content creator who logs into their account could see a notification. And they do this for all sorts of other things, but they haven't done it for this for some reason. For this, they've decided, we'll just publish a blog and good luck, basically. And I wish they'd published it before we'd put up our video and they've got a strike. I mean, we didn't know, but. YouTube's censorship of election results is, as they say, our main goal going into the election season was to make sure we're connecting people with authoritative information while also limiting the reach of misinformation and removing harmful content. Right. How is that not an editorial position? How can we say that that's not them editorializing? That is being a publisher. A publisher wants to connect people with authoritative information. That's why they publish it. That's why you do it. While also, presumably, acting in good faith, that is, limiting the reach of misinformation or removing harmful content. Publisher. You don't get 230 protections. You don't deserve them. That's what a publisher does. I don't know why the Republicans aren't smashing them on this, but they've got to do something about all of this.
Well, this did just come out yesterday.
That's true.
So.
But I mean, that's just an open admission.
I know, but this is the most blatant case of it in anything.
And so they say, our community guidelines prohibit spam, scams, or other manipulated media. Fine. Coordinated influence operations. Questionable. And any content that seeks to incite violence. Fine. Since September, we've terminated over 8,000 channels and thousands of harmful and misleading elections-related videos for violating our existing policies. Over 77% of those removed videos were taken down before they had 100 views. Well done. Well, that's what I like to see. YouTube bragging about their censorship. We're so proud that we've taken down 8,000 channels. I mean, I shouldn't complain because we're just going to get the sword of Damocles fall on us. But, it's just, I think it's awful. I think this is awful. The way that they operate like this. Again, it seems very much like Mao being surrounded by his sycophants that all just say that he's great and he's got all the power in the world and he is the truth, and therefore he should, sign this, take these actions, and damn the consequences. And who knows how bad the consequences will be. I mean, how many of their creators do they have to censor or have to leave the platform before other people are just like, is this worth me sticking around? Is it even safe to stick around here? But they say, while only a small portion of watch time is election-related content, YouTube continues to be an important source of election news. On average, 88% of the videos in the top 10 search results related to the election came from authoritative news sources. The rest are newsy late-night shows, creative videos, and commentary. And the most viewed channels and videos are from news channels like NBC and CBS. So, companies I just don't trust.
But it's also just an open admission that we manipulate your search results.
Yes, this is them tube.
But not to necessarily get rid of violent content or anything like that, but to make sure you get the information that we want you to see.
Authoritative, yes.
Authoritative, though, just means mainstream.
It's a subjective, opinionated statement.
But that's the thing. I think Tim Pool did a thing about this, talking about what sites they were allowing, what sites they weren't allowing.
Yeah.
And things like Breitbart or whatever. It doesn't matter if it was true, it doesn't matter if it's just as biased as MSNBC. Yep. No, that's gone because it's not part of the mainstream.
Yep. And yet Rachel Maddow will be considered an authoritative source, despite the fact everything she said about Russia was not true.
Yeah.
And at no point did she have anything true that she stated about Russia, even though she was categorically stating that Russia stole the election, etc., etc., etc. That just wasn't true. There's no validity to it. And yet she was allowed to say all of this, and this was just treated as if it was perfectly valid commentary.
Which, to be honest, I agree with.
Yeah, I do agree.
If she wants to spout a load of stuff about how this election's been hacked by a foreign power and all the rest of it, fine.
Yeah, and fine. Alex Jones can spout the same stuff, and that should be fine too. But one of them is left-wing, one of them is right-wing, and the right-wingers, as always, get deplatformed. It's always the same way. But they say yesterday was the safe harbor deadline for the US presidential election, and enough states have certified their election to determine a president-elect. Given that, we will start removing any piece of content uploaded today or any time thereafter that misleads people by alleging that widespread fraud or errors changed the outcome of the 2020 US presidential election in line with our approach towards historical US presidential elections. Weird, because I'd never heard this come up before. I've seen plenty of conspiracy theories on YouTube in the past about various, electoral fraud and stuff like this. But okay,
that's just a brave-faced lie, because you remember and I remember 2016 is when all this stuff started to come in. The idea that authoritative sources must be promoted. The idea that borderline content must be gone. Yep. That's content that doesn't violate the terms of service, but we're just going to delete it anyway.
Yep.
If this all came after 2016, and it was in response to Donald Trump being elected.
Yep. And again, Rachel Maddow being the poster girl of this, she's still treated as an authoritative source, even though she has done everything that they're complaining about here. She will not be censored. We will be censored. For example, we will remove videos claiming that a presidential candidate won the election due to widespread software glitches or counting errors. We'll begin enforcing this policy today, being I think yesterday, and will ramp up in the weeks to come. Good news for that. As always, news coverage and commentary on these issues can remain on the site if there's sufficient education, documentary, scientific, or artistic context. Well, that's not true, because it was a different thing, actually. I'll get to that. But anyway, so Tim Pool is the one person that YouTube will speak to, apparently. For some reason, not Steven Crowder. For some reason, not me or anyone else or anyone apart from Tim Pool. I guess it's because Tim Pool is centre-left. YouTube has clarified to me, he says, you can still say that Trump actually won the election. You can still claim that the election was stolen from Trump. You must meet two conditions for a video to be removed from YouTube. You must, 1, claim widespread fraud or error and say that it made Trump lose. You can still say that there is evidence of widespread fraud. You can still say that Trump actually won, but you cannot combine the two. What strange times we live in. And I just want to say I fully endorse our dear leaders at YouTube and their latest arbitrary action from Beijing. I agree. We should not be claiming widespread fraud or error at all, because it appears that the fraud was targeted in specific states, which I believe I'm allowed to say. I'm not saying it's widespread. It was localized. And I believe it was intentional and not erroneous. So well done for them for enforcing what I believe to be the truth. I'm joking. I mean, I'm not even joking, actually. I do think that is the case. Or at least there's a lot of evidence to suggest that might be the case. But the point is, that's a very specific band of things. You can't say widespread fraud or error. So, I mean, why those things? Why those two things?
Part of me wonders whether this is a walkback, because if you read the original post, they're very brazen. They're just saying, if you say that the election was, if you're spreading misinformation about how the election was won or who's won, then we'll get rid of it. And yet when they speak to Tim, they're clarifying, oh, no, we only mean this one specific kind of claim.
Yeah.
That's not what you wrote.
I mean, the widespread fraud is... I tend to hear that from the media. I hear direct and targeted allegations from the 4 states that are being sued by Texas, in fact.
Right-wing channels... Donald Trump, the Republican campaign, none of them ever use that term.
They're not saying that Oregon had widespread fraud. They're not saying had fraud in Oregon or Nevada, or actually Nevada they are. But in most of the states, they're not saying that significant amounts of fraud.
It's the media, but that phrase, widespread voter fraud, that's actually a phrase I only ever hear from the media, or at least I can only associate with the media.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Giuliani might have said it at some point, which I guess is why they picked up on it. But yeah, I mean, and through counting errors. I don't think anyone's accusing of a 7 million ballot error in counting. People think that there's been malfeasance, there's been cheating. So I guess we're still allowed to say that for now. I mean, I just don't know. And I think that they keep the rules deliberately vague in order so that they can never really be held to account. But anyway...
there's also another thing to say on that. I can't remember who tweeted it out, but someone realised that they said they were going to take stuff down until the 20th of January, and then they would take it down and give you a strike if you violated this, which makes me think that they're not really sure that they can get away with it, and they want to test this out and see what the backlash is like. Yeah. And then if they can get away with it, they'll just kick everyone. Yeah.
And so, the Daily Caller, if we can go to the next one, of YouTube, we're taking down all videos that promote conspiracy theories about the election. Also YouTube. How Russia hacked the election from The Atlantic. How Russia hacked the election from CBS News. Not true. Absolutely not true. 3 years worth of investigations found that was not true. YouTube do not get adverts on it. Domino's Pizza are apparently paying for CBS News to lie to us, to our faces.
But if Alex Jones wants to make a conspiracy, I don't know, about how the frogs are getting turned gay,
Yeah.
that's not only no adverts, that's you have to go.
Yeah, you're off YouTube. So it's unreal. The partisan bias and the attempt from the cathedral to control the narrative is so flagrantly on display that I don't know what else we would need to demonstrate it. I mean, how could you deny it? And this is even though the cases are at the Supreme Court. Like, cases of this are at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I mean, we saw under Tim's post, actually, what is it, the right stuff or right report? Sorry, mate, I've forgotten the channel name. But he just posts, what the Republican campaign is saying or things like this. It's like, can I even report on this anymore? What am I even meant to do?
Well,
and he's not wrong. Like, if the Trump campaign wants to claim those two things, which I'm not going to say, incongruent, and he says that they've said this, is he then breaking the rules?
well, I think we found.
I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think we actually have found that the answer is yes here. But as Jack Posobiec says in the next one, this is a great point. YouTube's reasoning for the new policy is essentially you are not allowed to criticize the government because it's focused on states have certified their elections. I don't care. I don't care.
Come on, like, extrapolate this to the rest of the world as well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. I mean, Venezuela had the presidential elections a few days ago, or national. I can't remember. Are we now to if a Venezuelan wants to upload a video saying that that's clearly false, are YouTube going to come after him?
YouTube are like, well, actually, Kim Jong-un won 99.9% of the vote, and therefore this has been certified. You're not allowed to criticize.
And of course, Susan Wojcinski will be like, oh no, we'll draw a line somewhere. Where?
Yeah.
Where's
why?
the line?
Why? Why bother drawing a line though?
You don't have to burden yourself with this.
What's your limiting principle on this? If you're saying that government is the source of truth, which you are, then why distinguish between governments at all? Because you've adopted the same principle as North Korea, as China, as Russia, as all of these other tyrannical states, and you seem to be fine running Silicon Valley like a despotic communist dictatorship. That's how they're running Silicon Valley. This is why it's so essential, folks. In the description, we have links to all of the other sort of alternative media platforms. And really, it's because you guys use YouTube. It's because you guys use YouTube that we're here. People go to YouTube because everyone's just on it. If everyone was on something else, we'd go somewhere else. We'd broadcast somewhere else.
This is why you're on Parler 24/7 now.
Yes. This is why. Yeah, follow me on Parler at Sargon.
Because there's an audience there. It's
a big
simple.
audience there. In fact, I've got over 100,000 followers there now. So a bunch of other of your band favorites are on there. Again, use BitChute, use DLive, use all of these alternative platforms if possible, because it's just because you guys are on YouTube, and it allows them to do stuff like this. YouTube have.
I did want to say something first about.
Oh, go on.
So I'll make an article about this later, but Susan Wojcinski gave an interview to the New York Times about the idea of promoting authoritative sources, and a lot of people wonder why you're doing this, because anyone coming at it and you just see that they're promoting mainstream media, obviously wrong. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot to not realize that this is wrong.
Yeah.
But her argument, just so people understand, is that she tells it that she was sitting in Silicon Valley and then she heard about the Nice attacks. Some guy drove a truck into a bunch of people, and she said to her engineers, "This is horrible." Personal grievance about it, and said everyone must know about this in France. People need to know. So they made it so it promoted the news about the Nice attacks, and it would only be authoritative sources. And the engineers came back and said, no one's clicking on this. Like, we're not getting any more views out of this. And she said, I don't care, show it to them anyway. Which means she just was not interested in the business side of it. She was interested in the, I suppose, the charitable education side.
Yeah.
But of course, she's now extended that and extended it. And it's at the point where she's happy to say, I will just serve up mainstream media to everyone. And I don't even care if they don't like it. I don't even care if they're not interested or don't want to click on it. I'm going to show it to them anyway. You're a publisher. Like, I'm sorry, how is that not a publisher decision?
That's an editorial decision. There's no question about it. No two ways.
There's no equal platforming there, Susan.
And it's also wildly arrogant. Like I have access to this giant platform that I can actually exert dictatorial power over, and I will. She is the absolute monarch of YouTube.